Hey guys, alright, it's Brett from Iron Body Martial Arts here. In case you don't know, I run a channel here on YouTube for the last 9 years or so that focuses mainly on old style traditional martial arts and conditioning training. Stuff from the 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin, but also a mixture of martial art training, traditional karate training, aspects of fitness and toughness training, militaristic style, and a little bit of law enforcement stuff. Today I'm just here sitting on my beanbag in what's my chill out room that I've never quite managed to make a chill out room. And I wanted to do a quick video today on Xiaodong, or Xiaodong, however you pronounce his name, and my thoughts on him and the fake kung fu, or exposing of fake kung fu. Because I was um, I was trawling online the other day and I saw Fight Commentary Breakdowns channel. Yeah, hey guys, I saw that Fight Commentary Breakdowns was doing, and I don't see their channel much, but I saw that they were doing an interview with this Yu Zhaodong guy, or however you say his name, and I put a comment up on there on the video, basically saying that, well, this is the thing on my video now, is that sort of Zhu Zhaodong is kind of no hero to me. I think he fights old men. He's fought like old men who I consider it kind of shameful to fight. And yeah, I think I put it a bit nicer to that, but I basically just said he's no hero to me, and he's fought some old men, and I'm not that impressed really. But there's this big consensus that he's like exposing the whole of MMA and martial arts and fake Chinese kung fu and stuff. And yeah, it's just, in my opinion, it's just not the case. A few people got a bit angry with me and they thought I was flaming MMA or whatever. But of course, as you guys know, I train at an MMA gym, as well. So I'm a fan of MMA. I just don't think there's any. I think the people, look, I haven't seen, although I could follow this Yu Zhaodong guy more, but I haven't seen a single opponent that he's fought who, as an MMA fighter or a competitor or even as a martial artist, even personally, I would bother to fight. If there's some old Chinese guy who reckons they're a master, and they're a bit they're obviously a bit overconfident of their own ability. I don't think you gain, as someone who's like a professional athlete or an athlete, or even a personally for yourself. I don't think you gain any recognition, or you gain any notoriety or whatever from beating up these people, because yeah, okay, you know you can stand up for this and that and the next thing. But even Zhu Zhaodong himself says he's not standing up for anything. I believe in one of the brief clips I saw of him, he's just said he's kind of fighting out of selfishness, which is fine. Anyone can fight out of selfishness, to get anger out of their body, to do whatever, at least he admits it. But I just personally think, I don't see him as a hero. I don't see him as a big exposer of fake Chinese martial arts, because he's not fighting. He's fighting old men. He's fighting old men who you can see. Like, you don't even have to be a martial artist to see that most of his opponents I've seen are just guys who you just wouldn't bother fighting. As someone who trained for any sense, or for any years, why would you bother fighting these people? What does it achieve for you? Um, I mean, I know the situation's complicated in China, and I know there's a big cultural difference. I mean, maybe that's what he's fighting against. Put your guys' views up, make your comments. Is he fighting against this cultural difference, whereby there are these people who aren't masters, but because they're so old, they're kind of getting the respect, and no one's fighting them, no one's challenging them. It's a different culture to what me and you know. It's not American culture, it's not Australian culture, it's not Canadian. It's different in China. The culture is whereby these old guys, out of respect, don't get challenged. But in challenging them as a young guy and beating them up and knocking them out, are you really achieving anything great? Or are you just making yourself look bad? Are you making yourself look like a bully? Are you really standing up for and exposing fake martial arts? when you can see these guys don't have ability anymore. One of the things I said on the comments to the fight commentary breakdown video, to the people who are saying flaming me, or not flaming me, but the people who are disagreeing. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing. If they think Xiu Xiaodong's a hero to them, then fine. But one thing I said to them was, well, let's have a look at say UFC fighters. You know, let's have a look at the likes of like Matt Hughes. I mean, I know these guys are the top of their game, and Xiu Xiaodong is not. He's just some, you know, normal guy like you or me. But these are guys at the top of their game, and I was like, well, do you think you would see, if we're talking about exposing, do you think you'd see Matt Hughes, Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz? You know, do you think you'd see these guys from our UFC past? Do you think you'd see them wasting their time fighting these bums? You know, and I'm sorry, you know, these guys, well, I shouldn't call them bums, but these guys might be or may have been respected people in Chinese martial arts, but they obviously don't have the skill that they're talking about. You know, they're obviously not all there mentally. If they really think that they, you know, because they know if they're masters, you know, I know, trust me, I don't know a lot, but I know a little bit about training hard at even a low level of kung fu or martial arts. Now, if these guys who've supposedly been doing kung fu their whole life, if they think what they're doing is hard training, or their abilities are good, they've obviously gone mad. And that's my whole point, is that any decent martial artist worth their grain of salt can tell that these guys are crap. So where are these people coming from who actually think that they're representatives of Chinese kung fu, that they're representatives of real martial arts? And that goes back to what I said. All of Xiu Xiaodong's opponents that I've seen, I wouldn't even personally waste my time fighting them. I wouldn't ask like my little brother to fight them. I literally would barely even ask someone who has no martial arts skill, or like someone who's been training boxing for 6 months, to fight them, because they're all old people. They're past their prime, and also you can see that whatever skill they had, they don't have anymore, or they live in a fantasy world of fake wushu or fake martial arts, where they think, you know, they can beat you with Tai Chi and this and that and the next thing. You know, it's just not a thing. So I don't see, again, I repeat myself for the third and fourth time, I just don't see the honor in fighting them. And again, I don't see the big exposure. I don't see the big exposure of fake Chinese kung fu, because another thing is as well is, I don't know whether it's maybe from an American thing or whatever, or it's from an ignorance of people like kids who watch YouTube. I don't know, but there are so many millions of Chinese people doing legitimate, or okay, I'll cut it down from millions. There are a lot of people in the world, and especially in China, there are so many Chinese people. Now, I guarantee you, there are probably more Chinese doing like sanda and kickboxing than there are like everyone else in the rest of the world doing sanda and kickboxing. So even if you take it from there, nothing's being exposed. There's still hundreds of millions of legitimate martial artists, even if you don't believe in traditional martial arts and you think kickboxing is the most effective style, which is cool, even if you believe that, there are still probably hundreds of thousands or millions of Chinese doing kickboxing to a very high standard. So what is Xiu Xiaodong exposing? Nothing. Hey to Sensei Grandmaster Chosen One. What is Xiu Xiaodong exposing? He's exposing nothing. When you actually think about it, I mean, I know the Chinese society is closed, but when you actually think about how many Chinese there are doing say even combat sports, and like their Olympic team, and their, you know, people like that, their Sanda team, their national teams. Then you've got the traditional martial artists. Then you've got these like crazy like iron palm masters who can like smash bricks with their face and stuff like that. When you really look at the sheer volume of numbers, just go and Google how many Chinese there are in the world, in China. If you even, like I said, if you even take the amount of them doing kickboxing, which in the West we consider a legitimate martial art, Zhu Xiaodong he's exposing nothing. Yeah. He's literally, maybe he might be exposing something to the West, of people in the West who've got like a misinterpretation, or they're told that there's this big fake kung fu going out there, or there's a lot of fake kung fu and crap martial arts in the West. But he's really not exposing anything, guys. He's fighting has-beens. I mean, of course, in hundreds of thousands or millions of people, however many Chinese there are, there's going to be a lot of crackpots. There's a lot. Martial arts is like a national sport there. It's a lot bigger than it is everywhere else. Of course, there's going to be crackpots. There's going to be crazy people. There's enough crazy fake martial artists in the West. So imagine how many crazy fake martial artists there are in China. Then also remember that China's a very, how you say, there's still a lot of folklore in China, and like magic belief. And you know, I've got a very good friend of mine who I haven't talked to for a few years, who's Leslie Kahn, who's actually the current holder of a Shaolin system. He trains out of South Africa at the moment, but he spent, since the 80s, he spent the better part of 25 years of his life in China. He even trained at Shaolin Temple, but back in the 80s when it was sacked and he went there, it wasn't even there. Yeah, it was sacked and gone, because it's been rebuilt since then. But he was in China before they even re-established the Shaolin Temple, and he tells me, in conversations we've had in the past, you'll be surprised how much folklore and like belief in magic and how much crazy stuff they still believe in China. Really weird stuff. So, I think a part of it as well is a bit of a cultural misunderstanding between the elder people and the youth. Albeit Zhu Xiaodong isn't actually that old. He's not that young. He's like in his 40s. But yeah, I don't know the ins and outs and in-depths of the guy, but from the surface level of the internet, like we all seem to live on, I don't see him as a big hero. I don't see a big exposure. There's this. It's probably only online here, but there's this big drive. There's this big forward momentum of like how fake martial arts are getting exposed and this and that, and it's just, I think it's just not a thing. There's always been bad martial artists. There's always been fake martial artists. If you mix that in with folklore and culture, as it's always been in China and in Japan, there's always been stuff like that. There's always been stuff we don't understand in the West, like the traditional jiu-jitsu practice of using ki and trying to like ki birds, trying to focus your intention on separate birds and shout at birds and get only one of them to fly away. There's a big cultural link to like what we would call, or what you might call, like fake martial artists or esoteric martial arts in Japan and China. But what you've also got to understand is it's part of the culture. It's just part of the culture. So again, I ask you, is Zhu Xiaodong going against the grain of his own culture? Is that's what making him angry? What is it? But do these, and this is a question for you guys, do these old men who are obviously misguided, maybe their egos are swollen and this, that, and the next thing, do they deserve the beatdowns that they're getting? Zachary Vowles says, love your tutorials. Thanks, Zach, and thanks for tuning in. Do they deserve the beatdowns that they're getting? And if it was you, like I said in Fight Commentary Breakdowns when I replied on his video about Zhu Xiaodong coming in for an interview, and then like I was getting flamed by some people, or not flamed, but they had differing opinions. But some people get a bit het up about it. But is he actually? Would you do it? You know, if I pointed you at an old man in the corner, you know, in his 50s or whatever, you know, as a young guy or a younger guy or a martial artist, you know, if you could see that this guy was maybe had an overinflated ego of himself, you know, wasn't in condition anymore, had a, you know, had like a belly and wasn't, you know, and had let himself go, you know, and was talking about shit, you know, spirit martial arts and no touch knockouts, you know, would you bother fighting this person? You know, what, you know, would you bother? Would you get any honor from it? Would you get any sense of achievement, or would you just feel like a bully? You know, and then like I said before, there is the thing of, oh well, at least maybe Zhu Xiaodong's standing up for martial arts and he's standing up for the real way. But he, by his own admission, says that he just fights for selfish reasons to get anger out of his system, which is fine. But there's another reason why I can't support what he's doing. You know, because everyone's rallying behind him, or some people are, like he's this great big cause of exposing fake martial arts. But he, by his very own admission, is just like, nah, I'm just angry. You know, I just wanna beat these guys. You know, but he's not even beating. He's not even beating. I've repeated myself like 50 times now, but he's not even beating skillful opponents. He's just beating bums and has-beens. You know. And yeah, like the people are saying on the comments here, he should go and fight some real fighters. I believe there are a few videos of him fighting like genuine Muay Thai fighters. And that video of him where he fights this like kickboxer guy and he's got like a bloody nose. Yeah, because there we go. He chose an opponent who could actually fight. He chose an opponent who was in condition and actually spars people and does fighting. And yeah, of course, he got kicked in the face and he had to work for what he did. You know, but yeah, so that's my 2 cents, guys. At least then, if any more people flame me on that comment on Fight Commentary Breakdowns video, I can point them to this video. It's always easy saying something in person, but yeah, you know, what do you guys think? Is you know, I'm very well, I won't say I'm outspoken, because I don't make many videos on the subject of challenging other people's opinions. But I am personally outspoken on this whole exposing fake martial arts thing that's going on through Facebook. You know, I don't like the exposing martial arts channels. I don't usually waste my time on them, because a lot of the time I think they cultivate like a bad feeling. They cultivate this poke fun at everyone, and it's contrary to my like philosophies of like encouraging people. I think people should be called out as fake martial artists. Well, hold on. I don't think they should be called out. I think if someone's doing something inherently dangerous and they're teaching something wrong, then it's everyone's right to call them out. Um, um, yeah. So we got some people here saying there's no problem in exposing fake, but if they went any further than he did. Yeah, so in other words, keep it reasonable. So that's a really cool point. So people are saying, yeah, you can expose people, but keep it reasonable. You know, I can respect that opinion totally. Personally, I don't find any joy in exposing people unless they're doing something wrong, unless they're teaching fake. Unless they're teaching something dangerous or something fake. Like I know there's been a bit of exposing of this Cynthia Shania going on. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her surname, but there's been a bit of exposing of her with regards to some of the fake stuff, and of course, once again, I leave that to the exposing channels. You know, that's not what my channel is about, because, like I said, I just focus on the positives of martial arts. I try and focus on the important things, and there's loads of really good channels or that people like that do exposing and talk about this fake person and that fake person. So I don't really talk about the subject much. Yeah, I try and keep out of it because it's like it's Flame City. But when I did see this, when I saw more of Zhu Xiaodong again, and I know he's a big topic online, and it's always cool to have discussions. I want to kind of ask you guys and put my opinion out there as well, that I don't see him personally as a hero. I don't see him as achieving these great achievements of exposing, because also I know that he wouldn't have to go very far at all out his own back door to find a lot of really powerful, legitimate masters, like guys who have trained like the ins and outs of kung fu for many years, can do some awesome feats of strength and toughness, and he could easily find someone like that, rather than picking on these fakers, picking on people that you and me wouldn't even bother fighting, has-beens, bums, or people with an overinflated ego of their own achievement. That unfortunately that makes you a failure in martial arts if you do that. Some hater Grandmaster Sensei said, hater Grandmaster Sensei. Someone else saying hater Grandmaster Sensei, saying that the woman's self-defense fakery is dangerous. Yeah, the only videos I've ever called out, and I know there's lots of channels who make a lot way more better than me, and they call out all sorts of fakeness. But the only thing I've ever called out is some Jake May self-defense videos that he obviously made to like build views. So he used like really big, really like overt kung fu moves to build views that wouldn't work as self-defense, in my opinion, and are even outside of the principles of traditional kung fu, which is using the right weapon for the right distance. That's a real core principle of fighting. And fighting kung fu, real kung fu, is using the right weapon for the right distance. Yeah, so he was doing things like kicking people in the face at close range, which again for self-defense isn't great. We've seen that it can work in UFC. You can just be real close to someone and just throw a face kick at them. It's fine. But yeah, anyway, we've got some cool comments coming in here. Zach says, Ranton, another YouTuber, said that as long as you aren't delusional, then go ahead with whatever you're doing. Yeah, I have big respect for Ranton, because obviously he's lived the dream that I would love to live. What a cool guy he is. And I have big respect for him because, I mean, he takes the piss and he has a laugh, and he does do some fake look at videos, but he keeps it respectful. And also, he if he doesn't know, he just gives you his opinion. Whereas some of the commentary and some of the fake martial arts like exposers, they base their opinion. They give you their opinion. They tell you something's crap, and they don't know anything about it. I commented recently on McDojo Life's channel. I never got to speak to him, but he wanted to speak to me because he did a video on Bujinkan, ninjutsu. Which is fair enough. He did a video on Richard Van Donk doing some like questionable techniques. So basically Richard Van Donk doing martial arts badly. But then he looked into the Bujinkan and he got up other stuff, and he was basically saying like, in his opinion, it's all crap and it's all bullshit and blah blah blah. But so my only challenge on him was, I contacted him. And I told him, which was my only problem, I said, mate, you don't, with all due respect, if you don't know anything about traditional jiu-jitsu, you shouldn't be commenting on it like that. Like, I know you've done your fighting and you've been part of a fight team and you've done a lot for your martial art and your sport, but my message to him is like, part of his responsibility, I guess, is to inform people correctly about martial arts. Now, if you don't know, if you've never trained that martial art, or you don't know a lot about traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, then you shouldn't really just look at it and go, oh, that's bullshit, because you don't understand it fully. Yeah, I'm not saying he doesn't understand that Richard Van Donk's stuff was crap, because it was, and it was not a good representation of the jiu-jitsu skills. But yeah, I just felt it was unfair to then just blast the whole of the Bujinkan, because again, I mean, that's a whole separate video, but traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, you know, traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu or taijitsu or whatever you want to call it, and modern day fighting sports are just in a different league. You know, one's almost like historical reenactment, and one's like current day sport combat, so you can't really put them in the same pool. You can only do that if people from those things come forward and they start saying, oh, you can use this to self-defense and you can use that to self-defense. That being said, a little bit biased here, but I've actually trained taijitsu or bujinkan or whatever you want to call it. I actually trained it for many years, and this is the only reason why I contacted McDojo Life. I've trained it for many years, and I've actually used a lot of the techniques in actual self-defense and in combat situations. So there's a lot of principles of traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu that are applicable and do actually work if you train them and if you know them. So in summary, my only complaint to McDojo Life was that if you don't know, you shouldn't say, or you should get some, you know, you should get some clarification. So was he correct on slamming Richard Van Donk? Yes. Did it look like garbage? Yes. Was he correct in slamming the whole of Bujinkan and saying, oh, it looks weird, it's stupid? Well, I think he was incorrect in doing that because, one, he's never trained it. Two, he doesn't know anything about traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, or at least by his own admission, because I asked him. So yeah, anyway, I'm rambling on about that point, but let's see what messages some guys have put here. Sorry about the wobbling, by the way, I'm just holding it. Oh yeah, so good point here. So MMA bone conditioning, because I was telling him a story. So I was doing BJJ the other day, and I don't know if you guys know, there's a lock in Aikido called Sankyo, where you twist the arm around like this. So if I was being attacked, they would twist my arm like this, and you'd use it to armbar me or whatever, or throw me on the floor. So I was doing BJJ the other day, and someone grabbed my lapel. I grabbed their hand, twisted it, and they afterwards they said to me, oh, well, I didn't know what you were doing. I thought you were just holding my wrist. And then they were like, oh, next thing I know, I was in a Kimura. So it just goes to show that that's a traditional jiu-jitsu lock. And that's also an Aikido lock. So in BJJ against a viable opponent, I used this Sankyo lock to lock them and put them and turn them over and get them and surprise them because they didn't know the lock. So there's an example. I mean, it's nothing special on me. But there's an example, and the guy I was training with after was like, man, I didn't know what you were doing. You grabbed my hand, you twisted it round, and he was like, I thought you were just going to do an arm drag or something, and then next thing I know, you locked up my arm, and you had me in a Kimura or blah, blah, blah. So there we go. There's another thing, there's a lot to be said for traditional martial arts, the traditional skills, and traditional jiu-jitsu. Here's another thing. I saw another thing online the other day where some crazy guy said that he said judo doesn't work, jiu-jitsu doesn't work, and Aikido doesn't work. Now, the Aikido everyone flames on, but I don't know what you guys think about it, but shouldn't, on the premise, this is a video I've been wanting to release as well, is on the premise that BJJ, so we all, like, I train BJJ now, and lots of people train BJJ, and everyone knows it's very technical, it's complicated, but it works. So this is a question I asked everyone out there. So tell me, why is BJJ legit, but everyone is slamming on traditional jiu-jitsu? So this confuses me. Because as someone who's studied traditional jiu-jitsu for many years, in its various forms, like you can get different styles of traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, then you can get Bujinkan, then you can get Taijitsu and Genbukan and da-da-da. But But what do traditional jiu-jitsu and BJJ share in common? They're all very technical. They require you to study them. They require work. They require like a lot of skill. There's a lot of trickery where you know it's intricate. It takes time, but it works. So I'd say that to you guys as well is about traditional jiu-jitsu is be careful about jumping on the train of jiu-jitsu is fake and doesn't work, because jiu-jitsu is the forebearer to BJJ. And the same techniques apply. There's the same arm bars, the same everything, the same throws. It's just done from standing. And BJJ is called newaza. Newaza, it means groundwork. So BJJ is, I'm sure you guys know this, is a specialization of traditional jiu-jitsu. Yeah? And I use my traditional jiu-jitsu stuff in BJJ. And I should be able to use it because it's the same thing. You know, it's the same thing. Anyway, we've trailed off from xiaodong here, but let's see what comments we have from some people here. Thanks for joining in, by the way, guys. Thanks for liking and sub. Give me your opinions. You know, we're just having a chat here. I could be very well wrong. It's just my opinions. Monster Zoom says MMA is a universal word and mixed martial arts. You could add any art to it. It's not the art, but the person. Yeah, I agree with Monster Zoom there. And that's another reason why I, again, don't think that xiaodong is doing anything great or exposing anything by beating up bad martial artists or people who've got an overinflated sense of what they can do through age, through ignorance. Do they deserve to be beat down? Let me hear you guys' thoughts. Yeah, judo's super respected, so why someone would say that doesn't work is just madness. Someone, Hater Sensei, says he doesn't believe YouTubers unless they're a cop, bouncer, or screw, that's a prison guard, or security guard. I've seen bouncers practice Aikido locks in the lounge in the old country. Monster Zoom, it's me, brother Brett, Big D. Oh, legend! I didn't know that was you. Dennis Su-Ming Hong, the legend. Monster Zoom there, down there on the comments, is training with a legendary. Not only did he train, hope he doesn't mind me saying, not only did he train with the late Donnie Su Sifu, holder of a couple of world records in iron body and Shaolin, also a guy I had the very pleasure of mentoring me very briefly and talking to me, also offering me some dit to Joe, but I would only say very, very briefly. But now, training with possibly one of the top kung fu guys in the world, I would say. You'd probably know the Sifu because Vava is the same guy that Vava Fitness has been. If you've seen that Vava Fitness, he went to Taiwan, and he was training with him all the Qigong and like the iron bone stuff and the conditioning. So he's got a whole, Vava Fitness has a whole set of videos of the Sifu training, which is amazing. What an awesome guy to train with. Monster Zoom, legend. Yeah, so but that'd be interesting. Monster Zoom and the guys in the sort of Asian world. I would be interested in hearing your opinion as well about what you guys think of xiaodong. You know, I've just been ranting on from my Western vantage point. Maybe it's a bit idealized that I don't think he's a big hero. I don't think he's exposing anything because there's so many martial artists in China and in Asia, you know, training hard, you know, using traditional skills, you know, of all those hundreds and thousands and probably millions of martial artists. You know, there's going to be a couple of crackpots. There's going to be a couple of respected masters who culturally no one wants to call out. But just because of decorum, it's not really the right or the done thing to go and beat those guys up. But I'd like to hear from you guys. You know, in the Asian world, you know, am I wrong? You know, I guess at the end of the day, the story's yours. So do you feel it's a breach of your culture? Do you feel that they're, you know, this guy is standing up for you? Or do you think he's just a dickhead who's beating up old men, you know, and a bit of a bully, you know? Let's see what comments we got here. Timothy says, the problem with traditional martial arts is there's a lot of convincing videos of it working and a lot of videos of it sucking. Yeah. One thing I'd say with that, Tim, is imagine all the boxers out there who suck. Imagine all the general normal people who suck at everything. You know, there's millions of people who suck. Yeah, good point though. I think a lot of the problem is a lot of the videos of traditional martial artists sucking are actually not very good traditional martial artists in the first place anyway. But no, good point. Good point. There's a lot of video evidence of it failing, and there's a lot of video evidence of like modern martial arts working. One of the key things I'd say as well, guys, is like training for the last few months at the MMA club that I'm training at here. And obviously having done traditional martial arts training in the past and been an instructor as well. One thing that MMA guys are very good at doing these days is just doing what all traditional martial artists should do, and that's just training hard, working at the basics, working at movement. I was not surprised at all. That's why I laughed when, you know, everyone thought I'd be so surprised going into this MMA club, and I always used to say to people, well, you know, and think to myself, I'm not going to be surprised because I do train hard. I am out there doing my kicks. I am out there doing my punches. I'm out there doing my endurance training. I'm out there doing the boxing. I'm out there doing the conditioning. So when I went to my MMA club here, I wasn't surprised. I'm seeing a lot of people doing good, hard training. You know, they're doing movement training. They're doing punching training. They're doing wrestling training, but they're training and they're training hard. And I think that's the biggest problem with traditional martial arts these days, is that people just aren't training hard enough. That's also why I do have a bit of a grudge against people who, not a grudge, but I disagree with people who slam on Shaolin Kung Fu. Especially in China or at Shaolin, because yeah, I understand it's wushu, understand. But those kids and those guys training that Shaolin Kung Fu, they train just as hard as the people in the MMA club that I go to. They train harder than that, and therefore they deserve the respect. They're kicking, they're punching, they're striking, and behind the scenes that you don't see because they don't think anyone's interested, they're doing Sanda and Shaolin kickboxing anyway, and they're sparring with each other. So that's why the people who come and slam proper Shaolin Kung Fu for being archaic and the moves don't work, they don't realize that those guys are playing with all the old moves, but then in between that, they're still sparring each other. They still can kick better than you and I can. They're still more acrobatic. They're still fitter. They're, you know, so again, what is Yu Xiaodong exposing? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But good points. Good points from everyone. So Monster Zoom says, let me share something with you guys. Here we go. So Monster Zoom here is in Taiwan. Currently trains Shaolin Kung Fu and has done through Donnie Siu Sifu, very respected. And he says, let me share you something with you guys. Zhu Xiaodong Sifu, who taught him, so the guy who taught Zhu Xiaodong, Sanda, so traditional kickboxing, was also a traditional Bagua practitioner, which means Zhu Xiaodong has a traditional background. So, well, there we go. I don't know if he's ever said that or not said that, but thanks for that, Monster Zoom or Big D, Dennis. Thanks for telling us that, because I wanted to hear from the sort of Asian continent perspective, because there's all these Westerners saying stuff, But let's hear from the people in Taiwan, the people in China. Timothy says, "Hey Tim, it's good to see you. I believe there are some really good Kung Fu masters who are really good and could fight and win in the UFC or even just beat most amateur martial artists. But they are like the top, but most aren't." Well, there's a good point, Tim. Are everyone training hard enough? But then again, Tim, you've got a lot of people. You do have like people like me. I'm a nobody. I'm just another run-of-the-mill show. Whatever your guys' opinion is of me, I'm a nobody. To me, I'm just a Kung Fu practitioner trying to represent how someone should be practicing Kung Fu and perhaps should be practicing traditional martial arts and martial arts. And so am I not a representative of, I'm not a top tier representative of Shaolin Kung Fu. I'm not from the Shaolin Temple. I haven't done any international fights and this, that, and the next thing. So good point though, Tim. But I think again, I would say to that, Tim, is that again, think about the hundreds of thousands or even millions of Chinese that there are. Yeah, studying Kung Fu, kickboxing, like right now in China, working at an insane level compared to what we would do in the West, that we just don't see because it's run of the mill to them. So again, I say, maybe online, maybe in America, maybe wherever, but what is Yu Xiaodong really exposing? When you think that there's probably more Chinese people doing kickboxing to a high standard than there are people in like the whole of America. Because there's that many. That's how crazy it is. I might be wrong, look up the figures, but think about it, look up the figures. So we're going to see, because as MMA Bone Conditioning just said, UFC's just built a performance institute in China. And man, I don't know if you guys have seen, but go and have a look at some of the China Sanshao team, the Chinese kickboxing team. Go and have a look at the stuff they're doing. They're doing crazy stuff that we wouldn't even do in the West. There's videos of those guys literally like taking punches to the face. Like we would never do that because we know about, the brain damage that you get. But there's videos of that Shaolin Wushu Sanda team taking punches to the face, like smashing in the face, really crazy training. So what is Yu Xiaodong exposing? What is he exposing? That Sanda, I don't know, Dennis might agree with me, that's been a traditional part of Shaolin Kung Fu and of Kung Fu competition, sorry. They've been doing it for probably hundreds of years. So what is Yu Xiaodong exposing? Monster. Short and sweet answers about traditional and MMA practitioners. Do your fight, do your drills, do your sparring, do your wrestling. Repetitions win. There we go. So Tim says, Yu Xiaodong isn't exposing traditional martial arts, but he's exposing fake masters. But people are making generalizations that all Kung Fu is bad. So, well, this is the problem here, Tim, because like I said, I went on Fight Commentary Videos community section. He said he's doing a interview with Yu Xiaodong. And, like everyone else, I'm a nobody, but I made my comment. I kept it respectful, but I made my comment saying, look, I don't think much of Yu Xiaodong. He's no hero of mine. He's not really exposing anything to me. He's just fighting people who I don't believe are worth fighting. Like we say, these fake masters. But the reason I say they're not worth fighting for him or for anyone is because they're just all old men. They're old men. They're out of condition. Hey, maybe they deserve a kicking. But to me, it just comes across as a bit sad. It's counter culture anyway, so it's always gonna It's always going to cause a bit of a flame because it's counter the sort of Chinese culture of like respect, and that's the reason a lot of these guys get away with it. Look, that's the reason why people get away with it in all traditional martial arts. Sorry, I'm spitting. Because how many of you guys have had a sensei or had a sifu or whatever who you don't really like agree with what he says, or he shows you something and you think, oh, it's a bit questionable, but you just go, oh yeah, yeah, you know, just out of respect, you know. But then that happens at the MMA clubs too. You know, I've been shown some stuff at MMA clubs, you know, recently. I've been shown some stuff that I've just, you know, I've gone, nah, that's not going to work for me. I'm not going to do that. But I don't stand there like a dickhead and go, oh no, it's not going to work. I just go, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, you know, and I just carry on training, you know. Sparring, I guess, is another thing that, you know, that's a big thing. We were talking about traditional jiu-jitsu and the difference between traditional jiu-jitsu and BJJ, and something that's brought BJJ up there, I guess, is all that sparring, which is good. Truth Teller 63 says, great points, Brett. What bothers me is Zhu's supporters seem to be totally oblivious to the fact that his opponents are, as you noted, either 40 years older or 40 to 100 pounds lighter. Yeah. So if you're not even fighting within the constraints of your MMA rule set, and you're fighting people who wouldn't even fight you in the first place, if you did fight them in MMA, unless it was an open match, which is fine. I think bouts like that, and then that's the thing again. Like in Chinese history, these martial arts bouts and even these crazy fights to the freaking death, apparently they're not unheard of and they're not unknown. I would like someone to dig up any kind of history or information about when the actual last fight to the death was in China in an actual official martial arts capacity. That would be interesting. Did they actually happen? I'm led to believe they did, but is that folklore? Is that not true? I don't know. Is it something just from Fist of Legend, which is a cool film? Tim says, one problem with Kung Fu is that the master keeps a lot of secrets. He will have the regular students, then he would have inner disciples would get the real stuff and maybe have family secrets. Yeah, but it's a good point, Tim, but I would prescribe to the you know, a lot of sort of inner disciple secrets are more to do with just spending time learning and listening. That's all. But there is some inner secret chamber stuff, I guess. But a lot of it's just to do with, like, for instance, the MMA club I go to. You know, I'm just a run-of-the-mill guy there. Then there's the inner circle of fighters who have been there for a lot longer, and you know they've earned the trust and they've earned the thing, and they've got separate training times that they go to and I can't go to. So is that not almost the same thing? You know, that I can't go to those things, though they get more time, they get more effort put into them, and until I become one of them, you know, I'm on the outskirts. So to me, when I see that, I'm like, oh well, that's the same as closed door. You know, they're more trusted, they've been there longer, they're getting tips and secrets of wrestling and getting more time with the instructor. So to me, I kind of see the parallels in all kind of training facilities with this kind of closed door mentality. But no, that was a good point, because yes, there are some other secrets, I guess, like formulas of Ditta Joe that were passed down, special breathing methods, whether they be placebo or not, special training methods. We all know that iron palm and the various types of conditioning training methods that are used for it are often held really secret in a lot of systems of Kung Fu. Yeah, good points. Good points from everyone there. It's probably the wobbliest video that I've done. Oh, there. Well, there we go. Someone says, Runak Lamba said, Ip Man used to give secret training to Bruce Lee. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. But yeah, anyway, guys, look, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your opinions on this subject. We talked about a lot of interesting stuff. I've whinged on about how Zhu Xiaodong isn't a hero of mine. Could I be wrong? Yes. Should I maybe check out more of his stuff? Probably. Am I going to? No, because I don't have the time. But yeah, if something comes along to change my mind, or if you guys find something, if you find another video of him fighting someone legitimate, or doing something else or whatever, send it through, because I don't have, you know, the time to always look at it. I follow a lot of things like you guys do, bits and bobs, or what comes onto Facebook feed, so I could be completely wrong. But yeah, in the general subject of exposing and fake martial arts and fake kung fu, and just traditional martial arts in general, I just think, yeah, there's a lot of traditional martial artists who should just train harder. You know, maybe they should take some lessons from their MMA fight clubs that we've got these days, from boxing gyms. Maybe they should visit one of these gyms and they realize that they need to, you know, up their cardio and this, that, and the next thing. But to the same extent, there's a lot of traditional guys out there training really hard. There's a lot of guys with awesome skills. And I think, you know, getting misrepresented. So that's why I do get a little annoyed when people slam on the traditional arts and people say this doesn't work or that doesn't work, because I can tell you, for me, it works for me every day, and it has done for years. And a lot of people say to me, oh, well, you know, you're going to find out one day, and, you know, you don't know what you're on about. And, you know, people make generalizations because they don't know me, and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, what, like I said, what more can you do? What more can you do than do your training, do yourself a bit of sparring? If you've got a job where you have to conflict with people, you know, like I do, you know, how more real does it get? You know, when are you going to find out these secrets that these people keep telling me about? You know, like when is real life gonna get when is it gonna get more real than real? You know, that's what I ask some of these strange people who come along. They're like, oh, you don't live in the real world. Yeah. The problem is, I guess, online is everyone just sees a picture of you and they make generalizations. You go on another channel, you make a comment, you know, even a fair placed comment, and you just get flamed by people going, you know, people who yeah, claim to not generalize, but then generalize and start whinging at you about, oh, you know, you would say that because you just do traditional martial arts. I bet you don't even know what real life is, and this, that, and the next thing. I bet you never been in a real fight for your life, in your whole life, and it's just the same old rubbish comes out. But it's all a waste of our time. But anyway, guys, I wanted to make this video just so I could put my thoughts out there, just so that if anyone from that topic conversation needs to be pointed to my genuine thoughts on the subject rather than what they perceive my thoughts are, they can look at that. Again, guys, thanks for supporting the channel. Please do like and subscribe. Thanks to the guys who've signed up to the Iron Body Martial Arts Iron Hand course. Are going really well. We've got nine students enrolled on that at the moment, enjoying the course. We've had one review, which is a 5-star review, which is good. I don't personally know the person who reviewed it. He's just a genuine student, which was really nice. If you guys check out my other videos, there's links to like a bit of a discount code to that, but I didn't put it on this one because, you know, there's no conditioning in this video. There's nothing relevant to that. But yeah, do check it out. Oh yeah, MMA bone conditioning is working its way through the course, mate. So I hope you enjoy that. But yeah, once again, guys, thanks for following the channel. Thanks for the likes and subs. And yeah, I'm currently filming another like martial arts course for like basic martial arts, 'cause, you know, like a catch-all martial arts training course for Udemy, because a lot of people come up to me and they ask, oh, well, what can I do? I want to train at home. I want to learn from the beginning, but I don't want to like necessarily do iron palm, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to like smash my head against bricks and do headstands and all that, but I want to start. So I've just been busy filming another course. Unfortunately, I've found it being more complicated than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, anyway, that's on a separate topic. But thanks for your comments, guys. Awesome comments. Sorry about the wobbly video. Timothy, what's Timothy said here? Tim says, I think working with internal martial arts, there's a lot more going on with the internal power and the various jins and skills of the internal iron body and internal iron palm. Yeah, well, the internal aspects of Kung Fu, I guess this is where a lot of the criticism comes from. For me, the internal, like, the Western understanding of internal Kung Fu and internal martial arts, I believe, is a little bit of a misrepresentation or a mistranslation. Like, we think of internal as magical, yeah, when we grow up or when we go to Kung Fu school, or that's how it's explained. But you've got to remember that traditional martial arts and Kung Fu and stuff like that, they're actually, and Chinese in general, are actually very practical people. You know, they're poetic, but they're also practical and they're also real. They might describe things poetically, but inherently within martial arts, there's real physics and real practicality. So a lot of internal practices are only internal by the merit of the fact that you are training an internal structure. So for instance, internal breathing training or internal aspects of internal martial arts are simply because you're breathing. You're using your internal muscles that are inside. Well, I know all your muscles are inside your body, but you're not training an external facet. You're breathing. Like if someone looks at you from the outside, they can't see you moving. Like for instance, with standing Qigong, when you stand there, everyone calls it an internal martial art. And they think there's these magical energies going on inside. But no, it's internal because you're breathing. You're controlling your breath on the inside. You're doing diaphragm breathing. And also you're training your tendons by standing. You're training your tendons at their maximum range of motion. You're breathing in and out. You're feeling what happens to the fascia in your body. Like when you breathe out and all your muscles tighten and you breathe in, and all they loosen and you breathe in and you're feeling this shift. It's tangible stuff. It's not, but of course, 1,000 years ago in China, how do you explain that to someone who's illiterate? How do you explain that to a kid who's just, illiterate? He's come to the Shaolin Temple or someone, or, the levels of education have probably been higher, in a lot of societies in China than they have in parts of the West, like hundreds of years ago. But and albeit that most people who study martial arts are always usually the more switched on people, because if you're not clever and you're not switched on, you usually can't do well in the martial arts because you need that analytical brain. Otherwise, you're just like a brawler. There's brawlers, that's fine. I can be a bit of a brawler sometimes, but yeah. So anyway, I'm gassing on, guys, but the external aspects of Kung Fu are actually, and traditional martial arts are actually tangible. They're real. They're like real things you should be training. Like if someone says, if someone gives you a Tai Chi form, says do this magical breathing and you're going to train your internal power, if you don't know, like you might be doing it, that's another thing, you might be doing it by accident, but if you don't know the mechanism that you're training, then you're wasting your time. Nakayama was very good at this for karate. There's a famous karate book, I believe it's by Nakayama. It's an orange book, and it's a full breakdown of all the stances and all this. I've lost the book now, but it was an awesome book, and you can see that the Japanese analytical mindset of karate and Okinawan karate, of how the angles work, how the movement works, how everything is in tune with physics and reality. That's martial arts. The reason why you do your stances is because they're self-supporting structures. you know, you don't just do stances to train your muscles. You do stances to conserve power and energy when you're fighting with weapons, or when you've got a weighted weapon, or when you're wearing an armor or something like that. The whole point of stances these days is, in general, is like lost on people. People are like, oh, why do you do stances? Also, they're good for wrestling. I'll give you that. All stances are very good for wrestling. That's something I've found. But yeah, that's one of the most amazing things that I discovered and I learned from years of study, is the light bulb moment when my brain realized that stances are about being relaxed, and they're about your bones supporting your body. So when you do your stances, your martial arts stances, I want you to think more of yoga than you do of martial arts. And if your stance should be relaxed, you should be able to move through it easily. And it should be, depending on what stance it is, it should be more or less self-supporting, and it should be energy conserving. Yeah, I mean, I can do demonstrations of the ideas, but they are on my channel. But if you look at all the, that's why there's so many similarities between martial arts postures and yoga poses. Not just because we share the history with Kalari Payat and the Indian martial arts, but because these poses are inherently the most economical poses that the body can move in, for reach, for distance, for having a weapon, and being able to deliver power, etc., etc. Oh, anyway, I'm droning on too much. Without demonstration, maybe doesn't make such much sense. Finally, Tim says, if you look at different masters, there is something more going on than external martial arts. I recommend you watch Adam Misner on the martial arts channel on YouTube. Yeah, okay, man, I'll have a look. Definitely. Now the cat's come to visit me now. I agree, there's huge physical component, but there's also mind component with different visualization racks and a chi component. Yeah, breathing is very important. Oh, yeah, Sound of One. It's just called Dynamic Karate by Nakayama. It's one of the greatest Nakayama sensei, great sensei. Dynamic Karate. It's a black book with orange outline. Dynamic Karate. I believe it's by Nakayama sensei, and although what I've added on my opinions about self-supporting and this and that, that's not got from Nakayama's book, but it's plain to see. Yeah, that's from my discovery of martial arts, and your opinion of it might be different. But because I come from, you know, a bit more of the, well, I do come from karate side, but I also come from the kung fu side. That's such a great book, because it shows you the practicalities and because your stances are physics. They're angular. They have to be in the right alignment. It all has to be right for them to work properly. Oh, here's the cat. Yep. Where I fits, I sits, I guess. And there's the Lord of the Rings helmet. Gotta have one of another. Sorry. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining in for another me gassing on. But you have a good day, and keep up the good training. Thanks a lot. Catch you around.